We own 39 short-term rental listings, and we spend just a few hours a week on our short-term rental business. And we generally have really excellent reviews, high occupancy, and really high net cash flow. And at the same time, I know people who have 1 or 2 properties and they're completely overwhelmed and they're not making much money. So how can this be? What's the big difference here? The answer is smart leverage. Most people think of leverage in reference to capital or borrowing money in real estate, which is a really powerful type of leverage, but it's just one of the 3 main types that exist. And when you combine all 3 in your short-term rental business, it's pretty astonishing the results that you can get. The 3 types of leverage are, number 1, what we just talked about, capital, using other people's money to allow you to control and invest in more assets than you otherwise would have been able to own with your own capital. The second type of leverage is human leverage, hiring people to do more than you'd be able to do yourself. I talked about exactly how I get maximum leverage from my small team with the lowest cost in this video, if you want to check it out. But the third type of leverage that I'm going to focus on today is quickly becoming the separator between the most successful entrepreneurs and the ones that are really struggling. And that is digital leverage, the ability to use software tools to multiply what you would be able to do yourself. And you can do it exponentially. The best part about this leverage is that you don't need any agreement from others in order to take advantage of it. With capital leverage, someone has to give you money. And with labor, you have to convince your team to carry out the mission and do their job. And there's sick days and holidays. But there's no permission required when it comes to software. So you're only really limited by your understanding of the tools and its capabilities, which are really increasing across the board every single day. So I'm going to share with you the tools that I use to run my short-term rental business every day and why I can own so many successful short-term rentals and not have it consume my life. And I apologize if I'm talking really fast in this video. I'm on hour 69 of a 72-hour fast. It's Wednesday afternoon and I haven't eaten since Sunday evening. And so this is the last thing on my to-do list to record this video before I jump in the ice bath and then go fill my belly. So I'm going to be talking fast here. And one last thing that I think will be really helpful before we dive into this and you start introducing tools in your business, I believe it was Elon Musk that said there's no bigger waste of time than to optimize a system that never should have existed in the first place. And this really aligns with Abe Lincoln's quote that if you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. In other words, adding leverage or software to any system or process or business is going to amplify the results. But before you start signing up for 15 different softwares or tools, it pays to spend some time to get super clear on the outcome that you're pursuing and then ask yourself, is your current plan the best way to achieve that result? Then you can improve the efficiency on what you're currently doing with tools. But speeding up the pace to get to the wrong destination, it feels good and it feels like you're accomplishing something, but taking a nap would literally be more productive. All right, so here's the list of tools that have allowed us to grow from owning 1 short-term rental back in 2017 to owning 39 short-term rental listings today with well over $1 million of annual recurring income. And some of these tools we're affiliates for. So if you use the link in the description below and you sign up for them, you get a discount and then we get a small kickback from the company. And some of them we're not affiliates for. We just believe in the software and we use it ourselves and we want to share it with you. The first tool that I love and use is Baselane. So Baselane is a banking platform. It's a bookkeeping software and it's a rent collection / property management software all rolled into one. I sort of look at it as the modern upgrade that replaces generic banking with property level accounts, integrated bookkeeping into the banking software, and then automated money movement. So let me talk about all 3 of these. So the first component is the online banking platform. And I'm a huge fan of the profit first system where you have multiple accounts. And one of the great things about Baselane is that you can open as many accounts as you want and you can assign them to different properties, different LLCs. You can set up the profit first accounts within each LLC. And then you can do things like if you need to hold a deposit on a rental property separate from the operating account, it's easy to just set up that account and hold that deposit there. So it allows you so much more flexibility. The second component is the bookkeeping features. So if you're a small landlord and you have a handful of properties, a lot of times it doesn't make sense to pay for QuickBooks or have a full-time bookkeeper on staff, right? And so in Baselane, you can set up rules around tagging different income and expenses. so that as things pass through your bank account, it's all organized and easy to file your taxes at the end of the year without you having to jump through a bunch of hoops. And then finally, the rent collection feature is super key. It's built into the software. So you can set up things like automatic rent collection and automatic late fees. If you've ever chased down a tenant trying to collect rent and then they always have a really good reason why it's late, and so you're like, should I charge them the late fee or not? Like, you can just set it and forget it to where they can opt in. They can do auto draw on their bank account to pay you the rent every month, and then you can set up the rules for the late fees if it's late and send them reminders automatically so that you don't have to be involved in that process. We primarily do short-term rentals, but we have a lot of direct bookings, and we have a 2-3 month direct booking. This is a super key system to have in place. So you can sign up for Baselane at baselane.com/Kirby. That's my first name, Kirby. And if you do that, you get $100 cash bonus. The second tool that I highly recommend, and it may seem intuitive, but it's Airbnb itself. And a lot of people ask me when they're first getting started, they're like, what platform should I be listed on? Because it feels like today there's so many different listing platforms. There's Airbnb, there's Vrbo, there's Booking.com, there's Google Vacation Rentals, there's Hopper, there's all these different platforms that you could be listed on. So it feels like you need to be on all of these. But what I tell people is in the beginning, when you're first getting started with your short-term rentals, then all you need to be on is Airbnb itself. Airbnb over the years, they started, I think it was 2010. And over the years, they've just integrated a lot of these third-party softwares into Airbnb. And so they have so much capability in the app itself. And Airbnb has like 80% or so of the market share in most markets. There's some markets where there's like legacy Vrbo markets where Vrbo existed long before Airbnb, and that's still who has the vast majority of the market share. But almost all markets now, the majority of the market share is Airbnb. And so if you just list on Airbnb, there's a ton of benefits with that. You start to build up your profile and your reviews quicker because all your bookings are coming in on Airbnb. You have the insurance built in, the host guarantee insurance, so that up to, I believe it's $2 million now, they'll cover any damages. And obviously you got to go through a process for that to happen, and you have your own personal insurance too, but it's another layer of insurance. And then the screening mechanisms that are built in. So if you booked through Airbnb, you can see the guest profile and you can see how many times they've traveled and what their reviews are, and see what other hosts have left as their reviews. And you can set up rules to not allow people with terrible reviews to book your property. It acts as another layer of screening so that you don't have the wrong type of guest staying at your property. It's actually now a pretty simple process to list your property and get it live on Airbnb. Airbnb has sort of condensed the process to make it as simple as possible. But I do want to mention, as soon as it's published, then you want to go back into the listing itself, and that's when you can update all the details, like add all your amenities, update the pictures, update your pricing, tweak your calendar and block dates off that it's not open. And so if you want to sign up for Airbnb, you can go to the link in the description below. Now, the third tool that I recommend implementing into your short-term rental business is what's called OwnerRez. And this is one that you don't need for your first property. Like I said, all you need really is Airbnb for your first property. But then as you start to grow, you are going to want to expand into multiple channels. You are going to want to start taking direct bookings from guests. You are going to want to control the details of the process a little bit more beyond what Airbnb can offer. And so OwnerRez, it's a fully comprehensive property management software, and it allows you to have one centralized place where you have your pictures, your descriptions, your rules about booking, everything that is pertinent to you as a host, and then that pushes it out to all the other third-party softwares and booking platforms that you want to be listed on. So that way you don't have to download all those different apps, and then every time you want to make a pricing change, you change it on each one of those, or you change a picture, or you change a description. That's extremely arduous. So instead, you can use OwnerRez as your centralized place, and that pushes everything out to all the platforms. The other thing that it automatically does too for you is it sets up your direct booking site. So for us, that's dunedwellings.com. That's where all of our listings are listed, and people can now go there and directly book our property. And so I talked about with Airbnb, it's kind of a screening mechanism, right? You can see people, if people have previous 5 5-star reviews. And so now you're not getting that with a direct booking platform, but OwnerRez allows you to create a booking agreement. So when somebody does a direct booking, they can see all your booking rules that you require, and then also you can require a deposit. And so we require at least a $500 deposit that somebody has to put down. It's a fully refundable damage deposit, but it's a hold on their credit card just in case there's any damages afterwards. So it's another kind of insurance policy built into our direct bookings, which come through OwnerRez. The other great thing about OwnerRez is that it integrates really well with the next two tools that I'm going to talk about. So the fourth tool that I want to talk about is PriceLabs. So we, again, in the beginning, don't recommend using PriceLabs. I think there's a ton of benefit with your first property to tweaking all the pricing manually and really understanding supply and demand, understanding the other comparable short-term rentals and the competition in your market, understanding what drives the highest rates and when to change your rules. If you do that manually first, you're going to be so much better off when you set rules around automation. But as you grow, there's no possible way at 39 short-term rental listings now that I could tweak every property and be accurate with my pricing. So what you need to do then is set up automated rules around your pricing. And I'm still in PriceLabs at least once a week tweaking pricing and making our pricing as accurate as possible and changing little things here and there to get as many bookings as possible. But PriceLabs has such comprehensive rules to where in different seasons you can change length of stay requirements. You can change rules around increasing pricing. If you have a 2-night minimum for all your bookings, but then there's 1 day sandwiched in between, they call it an orphan day, you can set a different rule around pricing for that 1 day than the rest of them. There's all this comprehensive automation that you can set up around your pricing, and it integrates perfectly into OwnerRez. So like I said, OwnerRez pushes everything out to the booking platforms, and so we connect our OwnerRez to PriceLabs, and so anytime a price adjusts, whether we do it manually or automatically through PriceLabs, it connects to OwnerRez, and then that connects to all the third-party booking softwares. The next platform also integrates into OwnerRez really well, and this one has come a long way. So Turno is the name of the cleaning management software that we use. There's others out there. Breezeway is another big one, but we've always used Turno, and it's come a really long way. I had the founder of Turno on my podcast several years ago, and that was back when it was called Turnover B&B, I believe it was called, and it was in its infancy, and there was a lot of bugs to work out, and he fully admitted that. But they've made a ton of changes, and they've taken the feedback of users, and now it's a great platform, especially for the very low cost that it is. But what Turno allows you to do is manage all your existing cleaners so that each property automatically creates a cleaning job for your cleaner when a booking comes through. So on the day of checkout, it automatically creates the job. You've got all your notes in there. The cleaner can see who's staying if you want to leave a personalized note for that guest. And then it assigns it in the order that you assign the clean to be assigned. So we have sort of a round robin where there's one main cleaner for our listings, but if they decline that cleaning, then it goes to the next cleaner in line. And so you never don't have a cleaning covered by your cleaners. The other thing is you can require the cleaners to upload pictures when they're done with the cleaning and then automatically pay them once those pictures are all uploaded. So I used to pay the cleaners on the 1st and 15th and have this big report, and I'd go through and pay every cleaner manually for all their cleans. Now it's just as soon as they're done, if they've done all the requirements, they've uploaded the pictures, then the payment is automatically sent to it. So they love it, and it cuts down on our time tremendously. The other thing on Turno is that they do have a cleaner marketplace. So we don't use this feature a whole lot because we have a specific way for hiring cleaners, but it can work. We have hired cleaners from the Turno marketplace. And so they list cleaners in the local market. They show what their pricing is, what their reviews are, and then you can hire cleaners directly from their marketplace and then just integrate them into your system within Turno. The next software that I think is really important, especially in the beginning, and we only use this to identify the best market that we want to invest in, and that is AirDNA. So AirDNA, I think, is the leader in data analytics when it comes to short-term rentals. There's a lot of other ones out there. There's Rabu, there's Mashvisor, there's several others out there, but I've looked at as many as I could find, and AirDNA always seems to be the most accurate to me. And up until, about 9 months ago, the basic version that was free was all I ever used. But AirDNA kind of realized that they were giving away a lot of data for free, and so they've tweaked it to where the free version really isn't useful anymore. But the lowest cost version is very useful, and I don't use it to plug in an address. What I've seen with this is if you're trying to analyze a specific property and you just plug it into AirDNA and it tells you this is what you should expect in the nightly rate and occupancy, that can be off. That's off fairly often in my assessment. But what's really helpful is to see the averages for every market. So you can plug in any market, any town, any city, and it will tell you the averages for that area. So you can see what's the average nightly rate and average occupancy, and then compare that to the average purchase price and see, is this a market that I think has some potential that I want to pursue? And then once we pick the market, then I dig into the comps, and that's how I really determine the nightly rate and occupancy for that specific property in that market. But I use AirDNA to figure out where the perfect market is to invest. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what everybody's talking about today with the AI tools. We use the trusty old ChatGPT for our business. And so there's a lot of things that can be time consuming around your listing descriptions and around pricing and around listing optimization. And so you can use ChatGPT for a lot of these things now. You should never write your own listing descriptions because you're probably not going to write them better than ChatGPT, which pulls in data from every single listing out there and understands what's going to drive bookings. So you might as well just allow services like ChatGPT to analyze your listing, see where there might be some weaknesses, help you write your listing description, help you with your pictures. It can help you with a lot of different things. So if you've been sort of AI resistant, which, a lot of people are, I totally get it because it can feel overwhelming. This could be a good way to just kind of dip your toe in the water and start using ChatGPT to help benefit your short-term rental business and help you be an assistant to help you as sort of like checks and balances for your property. And last but not least, I wanted to just mention a few bonuses that I know aren't software necessarily, but they're always things that people ask me about. And so I wanted to throw them in here because they're going to be really helpful when it comes to setting up your short-term rental business. And that is number one, a CPA, number two, a cost segregation study expert, and then number three, a service that can really help you set up your LLC. So first one is a CPA. You got to have a solid, even if they're not a certified CPA, but a tax planning person that can sit down with you regularly throughout the year and plan out your tax saving strategy. If you don't have this, you're probably leaving a ton of money on the table. And there's a lot of them out there, unfortunately, that don't understand real estate investing, and they're not super helpful when it comes to that. So I've looked at a lot of them, and I've gone through a lot of them personally, but the one that I recommend, they're known as the real estate CPAs, right? Because they work with people, a lot of them work full-time jobs, and then they also invest in real estate, like most people who listen to this channel. So I'd recommend sitting down with them. They'll talk through their services and pricing, and you can see if it's a good fit for you. The second thing is a cost segregation study company. Cost segregation studies are something that's required if you're going to take the 100% bonus depreciation, which is a huge tax incentive. So if you start talking to the real estate CPAs, they're probably going to bring up needing a cost segregation study. And so I paid in the beginning, I think it was over $5,000 for my first one, which was crazy. Now I've partnered with a company that does it for less than $1,500, which is a pretty incredible price. And it's a fast, very effective system that they have to where somebody doesn't have to actually come out to your property. You can do it all online. So there's a link to that below as well. And then I've partnered with another company that will set up an LLC in any state for just a few $100s. And they'll help you with your operating agreement. They will help you get your EIN number, which you're going to need to set up your bank account. And then they'll even act as your registered agent if you want. So you don't have to be personally listed on the LLC. And again, I paid several $1,000s for my first LLC, and they do it for a few $100. So it's a really incredible deal. I've looked long and hard for these relationships because they can be hard to find. And so if you want to take advantage of any of those, there's links in the description below. Finally, I want to mention, if you want to work with me personally through the process of buying and investing and setting up your first really high-performing short-term rental, you can go again to the description. There's a link there to the program, my first vacation rental investment blueprint program. And you can set up a call with me at that link. You can go there, they'll ask you a few questions, and then you get access to my calendar, and we can talk through your goals and see if this program is a fit for you. Thanks for joining me for this video. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm on a video though. I'm recording a video right now. You're a YouTube star now. You're a YouTuber.
Wait, actually?
Yep.
I'm on YouTube?
Not right now, but you're gonna be. Thank you, buddy.
My hands are cold.
Can I finish my video?
Oh.